In the eastern part of Nigeria, where the sun rises gently over green hills and fertile lands, sat a village so beautiful that strangers who visited never forgot it. Its name was Ogugu. Ogugu was not just beautiful, it was blessed. The land was rich and generous. Crystal clear spring water flowed freely through the village. A mighty river connected Ogugu to its neighboring communities like a thread connecting beads on a necklace. The people of Ogugu were educated, welcoming, and full of pride for their land. But perhaps the greatest gift Ogugu ever received was not from nature, it was from their forefathers. Many generations ago, the wise men of Ogugu made a decision that would benefit their children and their children's children for centuries to come. They walked to the boundaries of their land, the borders that separated Ogugu from its neighbors, and there they planted millions of palm trees. They called this sacred forest Iguawa. Iguawa was not owned by one man, one family, or one community. It belonged to every indigenous person of Ogugu. Any son or daughter of Ogugu could walk into Iguawa and harvest its palm fruits freely. It was a gift from the ancestors, a living inheritance that fed families, generated wealth, and reminded every generation of Ogugu of the wisdom of those who came before them. And for many years, Ogugu lived in peace and prosperity. But peace, as history has taught us, does not last forever. On the other side of Iguawa sat the village of Ogugu. Ogugu was also blessed with fertile lands and natural resources. But Ogugu was known for something else too, something that made neighboring villages speak their name with caution. The people of Ogugu were fierce. They were stubborn, aggressive, and fearless. It was said among the surrounding villages that an Ogugu man would rather die fighting than lose what he believed was his. They did not negotiate. They did not back down. And when they wanted something, they took it. And now they wanted Iguawa. The land dispute began quietly, whispers of disagreement, small arguments at the boundaries. But it did not stay quiet for long. Soon the whispers turned to shouts. The shouts turned to threats. And the threats turned to something far more dangerous. Men began appearing at the borders of Iguawa carrying cutlasses, arrows, guns. The palm trees that the forefathers of Ogugu had planted with love and hope were now standing in the middle of a war zone. Then one terrible morning, everything changed forever. 3 people from Ogugu, Ibub, and Een walked into Iguawa to harvest palm fruits. It was something they had done all their lives. It was their right. It was their inheritance. They never imagined it would almost cost them everything. Ogugu men were waiting. They ambushed the 3 harvesters deep inside the forest. Agu and Ibub never made it home. They were killed inside Iguawa, on the very land their forefathers had planted for them. Only Een escaped. She ran through the forest with her heart pounding and her legs shaking, running for her life, until she reached the safety of Ogugu and collapsed with the worst news the village had ever heard. When the news reached Ogugu, the village did not cry. It roared. The youth of Ogugu rose as one. Grief turned to fury. Fury turned to action. They grabbed whatever they could find and marched into Ogugu. And so began one of the bloodiest conflicts the region had ever seen. For 3 years, Ogugu and Ogugu fought. 3 years of pain. 3 years of loss. 3 years of mothers burying their sons and wives burying their husbands. The palm trees of Iguawa stood silently watching, covered not in palm fruits, but in the shadow of war. Finally, the government stepped in. The fighting was stopped. The matter was taken out of the hands of the people and placed before a court of law. Now it was no longer cutlasses and arrows, it was documents and evidence. And here Ogugu had a powerful advantage. Their land map was intact. Every boundary, every tree, every inch of Iguawa was documented and recorded. The forefathers of Ogugu had not only planted palm trees, they had kept records. And those records were safely stored in the king's palace. Ogugu was ready, but Ogugu was not finished. Someone in Ogugu made a desperate and wicked plan. If they could not win in court, they would destroy the evidence. 7 days before the court hearing, a group of men from Ogugu crept through the darkness of night and located the home of Barrister Cletus Obi. Barrister Cletus was not just Ogugu's legal representative in court. He was their record keeper. a trusted and respected son of Ogugu who had dedicated his life to protecting his people. The men poured fuel around his house, and they set it on fire. The house burned to the ground. The men of Ogugu walked away into the darkness, satisfied. They believed they had destroyed everything. They believed Ogugu would arrive in court with nothing. They were wrong. What Ogugu did not know, what they could never have imagined, was that Barrister Cletus kept no documents at home. Every single document, every map, every record, every piece of evidence was locked safely inside the king's palace. Not one page was lost. Not one boundary was erased. The day of the hearing came. Ogugu walked into that courtroom with everything. Maps, records, evidence, history. Ogugu walked in with nothing but desperation. The judge looked at the evidence. The boundaries were clear. The ownership of Iguawa was undeniable. Ogugu won. The court ruled in their favor completely. Iguawa was declared the rightful property of Ogugu village, just as the forefathers had intended. And Ogugu, for the burning of Barrister Cletus Obi's home, for the killings inside Iguawa, for 3 years of bloodshed and destruction, was punished severely by the government. Justice had finally come to Ogugu, and the palm trees of Iguawa still stand today, rooted deeply in the soil that the forefathers planted them in, unbothered, undefeated, and still feeding the children of Ogugu, just as they were always meant to. The lesson is this: what your forefathers built with wisdom and documented with care can never be stolen from you. Evil men can burn a house, but they cannot burn the truth. And no matter how long justice takes, it always arrives. Ogugu still harvests from Iguawa, and the palm trees remember everything.